Hello guys, Crispy here and welcome back to another Through the Ages video. In this one we're going to be testing the desktop 50 Ti class GPUs from Nvidia in GTA 5. The best game ever because Jack is in it, of course. Anyway, we got 4 GPUs to test here today. Nvidia only made 4 50 Ti's on the desktop side of things. So let's start with the GTX 550 Ti. The 550 Ti was the first 50 Ti skewed GPU released back in 2011 based on the Fermi architecture. It has 192 CUDA cores, 1 GB of GDDR5, and it consumed 116 watts of power. Next up we got the GTX 650 Ti, and this is its first appearance in the channel actually. So this one released in 2012, it's based on the Kepler architecture. It has 768 CUDA cores. This model has 1 GB of GDDR5 and it consumes 110 watts of power. Next we have the legend itself, the GTX 750 Ti. This GPU released in 2014 and it's based on the Maxwell architecture. Unlike most 700 series cards, which are based on Kepler, it has 640 CUDA cores, 2 gigs of GDDR5 in this model, and it consumes 60 watts of power. But in reality, it consumes way less than that. I have never seen it go over like 35 watts of usage, so it makes this super power efficient compared to the previous GPUs in the 50 Ti SKU. And finally, the last 50 Ti GPU that was released on desktop. Weirdly, they made a 1650 Ti on laptop as well as a 3050 Ti, but those never came to desktop. This is the GTX 1050 Ti. It was released in 2016 and it's from the Pascal architecture. It has 768 CUDA cores, 4 GB of GDDR5 memory, and it consumes 75 watts of power. And that's it for the intro. Let the game of cards begin. Alright, we got the GTX 550 Ti installed in our test system now, along with the latest Nvidia drivers available to it, which are already really old, but you know, it's a very old GPU. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power Ups GPU Z again, driver date as well, and over on the left we're pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5700G and 16 GB of RAM. This is totally overkill for actually all of the GPUs that we're testing today, but it's just so we don't have any CPU bottlenecks whatsoever, and we can compare results, you know? So let's get to the game now, shall we? Let's go over the settings now, and in this one I chose DirectX 11 1080p resolution with the lowest settings, which in this game are called normal settings for some reason. Over on the advanced graphics everything is turned off, and it is a really smooth experience. As you can see guys, GTA 5 is just super well optimized. It came out on PC in 2015, 2013 on the PS3, and 2014 on the PS4. So you could say that the GPU was already at least 3 years old when this game came out, but in reality it was actually like 5 years old. Oh boy, okay. I'm always a great driver here in this game, okay? This is gonna be great, guys. We're gonna visit Jack 4 times in this video. This is crazy. Alright, anyway, getting 60 plus FPS around here is nothing short of amazing coming from a GTX 550 Ti. Guys, if you are struggling playing this game with something like a GT 710, GT 610s and stuff like that, please go out on the used market, try to find a really cheap GTX 550 Ti. I mean, I've even found it with 3 years of warranty recently on CEX for 25 euros, and that's a huge upgrade over a 710, you know? You could actually go sell the 710 there, grab like 10 bucks for it, and then this would only cost you 15 bucks. And you can play at 1080p normal settings with 69 FPS on average. It's actually better than what I was expecting. Oh boy, okay. Alright, we're almost there. Most intensive part of the benchmark run with all of this vegetation. It drops into the 40s. Ooh, very low into the 40s, you know? Oh, hello, Jacqueline. So we're not gonna see Jack 4 times because we saw Jacqueline here. Interesting. But we like Jacqueline now, alright, guys? Everything is fine. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh, I'm so sorry, Rick. That's terrible. Now, these bushes are like the most intensive things that you can do in this game. Explosions and stuff like that don't even come close of the intensiveness of these bushes. So it will never drop from like 35 FPS basically. And we need to kill Bob. There we go. And now the balance in the universe is restored and we can move on to the 650 Ti. This was buttery smooth, guys. 650 Ti is now installed. You can check out again all of its specs right here in Tech Power Up's GPU Z. 1 gig model, as I told you, and the driver version is 474.14 from 2022. So much more recent drivers, but still not the latest ones from Nvidia. Over on the left, we're pairing it with the same Ryzen 7 and 16 gigs of RAM. Let's go. Alright, so we're starting with the same DirectX 11 1080p and normal settings, okay? Everything is still the same over here, and advanced settings are all turned off, just to compare it a little bit. So the previous one was getting around 60 FPS in this scenario right here. This one is getting 30 to 40 more frames per second. That's quite impressive, guys. And that, of course, means that we should increase the settings here with the 650 Ti. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. All right, I just restarted the game, and these are the settings that I chose. I didn't bump up the population variety because it actually uses a lot more video memory, and I set most things to high and these two to normal. These were disabled previously. Let's see how it does. Advanced settings are still on the lowest, and now we're getting around mid-60s here, and the game is looking considerably better, especially when we get to move on. We will see much better graphics. Here we go. Start counting the FPS, and let's get to the road. Yeah, that looks way better. Like, the shadows give it maybe a bit more color even. It has more depth. It's not as bland, you know? And, like, there's ambient occlusion as well and so on. Grass will look way better as well now that it's on high in Jack's Hill. So 650 Ti is definitely a pretty capable card for 1080p high settings in GTA 5, and it looks really good. I think the high settings in this one are maybe the sweet spot for these older GPUs. You know, you could go very high, but in reality, it's just gonna look slightly better and get way lower FPS. So for this card and the 750 Ti, this is what I recommend, 1080p high settings. I'm so sorry, guy. Oh boy, people, get out of the way now, all right? 66 FPS, so slightly lower averages than the 550 Ti on normal settings here, in this place at least. Okay, you know what? At the end of the video, I'll actually put up a little comparison between FPS results at like 1080p high settings across the board, just so we see the true improvements, you know. Also, I tried increasing the ambient occlusion to high, and it dropped by like 5 FPS, so I prefer to keep it at like 40 plus most of the time. Hello, Jacqueline, again. What are you doing here? I mean, I want to see Jack. The whole purpose of this video was to see Jack like 4 times. Anyway, what is good is the performance on the 650 Ti. Didn't drop into the 30s here, so the Kepler architecture, goodbye Bob, is definitely handling vegetation a little bit better than the Fermi architecture on the 550 Ti. That's obviously something to be expected. Some effects will be more intensive on older stuff and more optimized on the newer stuff. So 63 FPS average and 41 1% lows is a really good experience. And the 650 Ti can also be found for really cheap, so if you find one of these for like 20 bucks, go for it. The legend is back, my friends. GTX 750 Ti 2 GB model. You can see it here in Tech Power Up's GPU Z once again. Latest Nvidia drivers. This one actually supports those from 2023. And over on the left, we're pairing it with the same Ryzen 7 and 16 gigs of RAM. Let's go. So we're still playing in DirectX 11 at 1080p. By the way, the game doesn't have DirectX 12 support. It came out in 2015. And we're using the high textures with population variety set to half because we do have 2 gigabytes of VRAM at the moment. Everything else is set to like high or normal. These two I changed to high instead of medium, coming from the 650 Ti, and this is now set to 16 times. And over on the advanced settings, everything's still turned off, and it will remain turned off every time, even with the 1050 Ti, honestly. But yeah, even though we are using slightly higher settings than with the 650 Ti, we're already seeing some major improvements. It's not even dropping into the 50s here. And I know already that a lot of people will type in the comments saying, oh, it's all because of the 5700G, you're using a Ryzen 7 with these GPUs, you're crazy, that's why you're getting high FPS. Well, I got some news for you guys. That say that. I used to have the 750 Ti paired with an i3 6100 and 8 gigabytes of RAM in dual channel, and it played exactly the same as this. It wasn't CPU bound even with that 6th gen i3. It was actually a really nice budget combo at the time. I remember getting that PC for Digimoon for $400 or whatever it was in 2015 or 16. Yeah, really good value back in the days. And GTI 5's performance hasn't really changed much since then. So yeah, that i3 would still keep up with the 750 Ti and the previous GPUs that we tested today as well, just fine, and achieve these same FPS. So anyways, that said, these results are not surprising to me whatsoever. Like, again, I played a ton of GTA 5 with this little GPU, and I enjoyed every minute of it, as did Digimoon, and well, it shows an amazing experience, basically. Oh my god, that was close to exploding the car there. Sometimes it happens, you know. Now, I'm curious to see it in these bushes. Oh boy. Okay, it does drop from 60 FPS. It's not all 60 plus all of the time. Still Jacqueline. Are you serious? Like, at this point, I think Jacqueline and Jack made a pact so he wouldn't show up more in my videos. Like, this is crazy. 3 times in a row, Jack is not here. It does drop into the 40s at times in worst case scenarios, but, you know, it doesn't really matter too much. Goodbye, Bob. We can still free the world from psychopaths like Bob, and that's all that matters here in GTA 5. You know, this game was made for us to come here, go visit Jack, and kill Bob, and you can certainly do it with the 750 Ti with really good frames per second, like 72 on average. Is amazing. Alright guys, let's move on to the 1050 Ti, the final GPU on this lineup. Here we have it. 1050 Ti is now installed in the system. We got the latest drivers installed as well with it, and it has 4 gigs of GDDR5. Everything else is right here for you to see. Still pairing it with a Ryzen 7 and 16 gigabytes of RAM. Let's go! I'm starting this at 1080p using the same settings as the 750 Ti. I didn't touch anything here, just to make a little bit of a comparison here once again. And where that GPU was getting a 72 FPS, looking in this direction, in this exact same place, this one is getting 120. That is a massive improvement in performance compared to the 750 Ti, guys. So this is a high refresh rate experience at 1080p high settings, basically. We can definitely increase the settings here. I'm gonna play for a little bit like this, though, because, you know, a lot of people are actually looking for that smoother experience in games, and this already looks really good on high, so no problems in playing like this, you know? Oh my god, I cannot get out of the freaking garage this time. Why isn't it working? All right. Okay. Moving on, guys, getting around 100 FPS now. That is really awesome, and this gives us a little bit better of a chance to see Jack. You know, imagine if I was gonna test very high settings only with the 1050 Ti, and we ended up seeing Jacqueline again. We don't want that. Oh my goodness, this is just absolute insanity at this point. 120 plus on average crazy stuff. Obviously, near bushes, things will drop, but not even to 60 FPS, I believe. Also, to achieve these FPS, that i3 6100 that I was telling you about on the 750 Ti gameplay, well, it won't really do 100 plus FPS anymore, obviously. That's good to up to like 80 FPS on average or so. So to achieve these frames, you would need a pretty beefy CPU, like I think like a Ryzen 5 3600, maybe a Ryzen 3 3100 would be capable of achieving these frames. Finally, over here, oh my gosh, it doesn't even drop a lot from 100. Damn, that is crazy. And Jack is here. Thank you. Oh my. Did we actually kill Jack? Like, I was so happy to see him. I am so sorry, Jack. Oh my god, dude. I feel so bad. We finally saw him and we killed him. Well, I killed him. You guys didn't do anything, of course. I'm sorry to put you on this with me, you know. Okay, bushy area, dropping into the 80s. Not an issue, my friends. This is buttery smooth for a 1050 Ti. It doesn't have any problems whatsoever with GTA 5. And lastly, I will bump up everything to like very high-ish settings. I'm actually going to use my custom settings in this one. Not everything will be maxed out, but most things will be on very high. Grass quality, I'll keep it on high, because otherwise it would actually drop a lot. I'll do soft shadows, post effects, I'll keep that on normal because it actually introduces motion blur on higher settings and very high tessellation. So this is it. Just going through them again. Very high settings or custom crispy settings. And damn, guys, it is still so good. Like, this on very high settings is way faster than like a 750 Ti on high settings. Holy! I feel like we found the perfect settings for a 1050 Ti. It doesn't get much better looking than this. Again, that's why these are my custom settings, as I usually say. Oh boy. Wow, what? How did we manage to miss that post? Oh my gosh. Okay, anyway. 100 FPS here. It's still really solid of an experience, really smooth. You can achieve these kinds of frames with something like a Ryzen 5 1600, Ryzen 5 1400, even a Ryzen 3 1200 if you overclock it. This game doesn't really use a ton of CPU, at least in single player. In multiplayer or online, that's another story. That's a completely different, separate kind of game. It's just as GPU intensive as single player, so GPU performance will be the same on online. But since it's not really optimized to take advantage of newer CPUs or older CPUs, it's just not well optimized CPU-wise, it ends up getting... No! It ends up getting way lower FPS because you'll likely be CPU bottlenecked in online, okay? Damn, guys, I think that was payback for killing Jack previously, right? Alright, I'm gonna go this way now. I really do not want to make the car explode this time. Okay, thank you. Alright, we made it, guys. Let's see if the FPS drop from 60. I highly doubt it. Yeah, 70s here. That is amazing. That is a great gameplay experience. And we didn't see Jack, so I'm glad we visited him during the high settings testing, same as the 750 Ti, because if we didn't, we'd only see Jacqueline every single time, and that's a bit sadder, you know. Anyway, dropping to near the perfect FPS, you know, 69, 65 right there. All right, and goodbye, Bob. Always wearing the same jacket today. That's weird, actually. Usually he wears different clothes. But alright, that's it. Perfect experience, 100% above 60 FPS here with the 1050 Ti. It kind of looks like we're playing on a 4090 given what we played with previously, right? So that's been it for this video. Oh my god! as I was saying, that's been it for this video. Thank you very much for watching it. If you're looking for some comparison results, I'll have them right here on the screen for you guys. You can take a look at them. This was tested on the same high settings as the 750 Ti on all of the GPUs. So this is how it compares, basically. Thanks very much for watching. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.